My name is Priscilla. My pronouns are she and her. Welcome to Chestnut Hill United on this day. We're so glad for everyone joining us, whether you're on Zoom or you're in the sanctuary, where we're trying. Hopefully that's better. We're in the sanctuary trying to stay cool on this hot day. I think we're managing for now as long as nobody starts doing jumping jacks. We want to acknowledge that the land that we're on was originally stewarded by the Lenape people, and we want to be in good relationship with the land and with our indigenous siblings. It's also a holiday weekend. Given U.S. history, it's a complicated holiday, especially for BIPOC folk. So I just want to acknowledge that, and I do wish you a restful, playful, long weekend time off, and may we celebrate our interdependence with each other. A few logistical items. We're having technical difficulties. We decided to do that so Kip would feel like really needed on his first day of sabbatical. So it means that the projector's not working, but I don't think that's going to interfere too much, except that there'll be some voices that come over Zoom that you won't be able to see the faces for. We are recording the service on Zoom. The only time we'll pause is for prayers, so that those will be confidential. And you can put on closed captioning on Zoom if it's helpful for you to see the words. And if you need assistance online, CARE is acting as many things today, and one of those is Usher. So if you have technical difficulties, please give a chat to CARE. At this time, our opening hymn is found in your special hymnals, the black binder, and we're going to sing number 40, which is called Invocation. You may rise in body or in spirit. looking for a volunteer for the opening sentences. I'm going to do the leader part. I'm wondering if there is someone either on Zoom or in the sanctuary who will do the people part. So we'll see. We'll see what Care says.
Wondering if there's anyone in our Zoom room. Becky has volunteered. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you, Becky. These opening sentences are by Lucille Clifton. They come from Won't You Celebrate With Me from the Book of Light. And I'll ask you at home and in the sanctuary to join in for the people part. Won't you celebrate with me? I think Becky's getting unmuted.
Shoot. Okay, I'm having trouble with my screen too. Just a second. What I have shaped into a kind of life I had no model.
Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman, what did I see to be except myself?
The screen isn't moving for me.
My one hand holding tight to my other hand.
Come celebrate with me.
That every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. Amen.
Amen.
Our act of praise is in the special hymnal number 2, Come Drink Deep. It's time for our time with children. In case those in the sanctuary want to join me on the steps. And we'll also ask Care if we have anybody on Zoom. Any children joining us? Hi, Cringe family.
I don't see any children. If there are any children on Zoom, can you please make yourself known?
I'm wondering what either of you might want to share and what's going on with you.
So next, I'm gonna be in camp Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then the week after that, next Saturday, I'm going on a plane to England. And I'm going to be in England for a week, and we're going to be all over the place, basically.
Super exciting, Eli. How do you feel about traveling by plane?
Done it many times before, so I'm not scared.
Awesome. I hope you have a great trip, and
So my grandfather has also traveled many, many miles, so we get to go into the first class lounge at the airport.
that sounds super fancy and exciting. I can't wait for you guys to come back on the steps and tell us some about that trip. That's awesome. Oh, so Eli, you're going with your grandparents?
So I'm going to be going with Dad, Grandma, and Grandpa. And this is for my 10th birthday. Like, every 10th birthday, they take us wherever, not anywhere we want to go, but somewhere around the UK.
A special trip for those double digits. That's really exciting. I can't wait to hear about that. Does that mean that Maisie is going to get some special one-on-one time with Mom? That's exciting too. I'm sure that you won't have any fun without Eli around. That was sarcastic. I think you'll have a lot of fun, but I'm sure you'll miss him too. Maisie, is there anything else you want to share? No? Well, we're so glad you're here. Is anybody going to see any fireworks this weekend?
Maybe not.
Still up in the air? Okay. Get it? We're glad that you're both here with us and excited about your trip and all your camp plans. And we're going to be praying that you have a great and playful summer. So thank you both. At this time, Care is going to bring us our announcements.
Good morning, friends. We want to extend thanks to our worship team and volunteers this morning. Michelle Williams on tech, Palmer Williams on camera, Molly Davis, our online greeter, myself as your worship leader, and Foster Longo as our musician. On Sunday, July 10th, you're invited to an ice cream social fundraiser after church from 11 till 1. Ice cream sundaes and homemade baked goods will be available, as well as yard games for the whole family to enjoy. Suggested donation of $5. Family and friends are welcome. And yes, we are a little jealous here online. Are you planning your summer travels? It's never too early to start collecting your water for Water Sunday on September 11th. Is worship facilitation your ministry? We need you. We need volunteers for camera operators. That's what Palmer's doing today. Greeters, both in person and online. Usher, that's one of the things I'm doing today. That's the person who helps with the prayers. And our tech lead, which is what Michelle's doing today. There's training provided for all of these roles. So if you're feeling like you might want to step into something new, please reach out to Priscilla. You can also sign up using the link that I'm hoping is also in your bulletin. And for those of us online, it's on the bulletin that you were emailed. Looking for an opportunity to serve Chestnut Hill United Church? All our committees are open to new members, and we would love to see you. You can email churchcouncil@chestnuthillunited.org, and they will put you in touch with the committee chairpersons. We can't wait to see you. If you have questions or comments for Church Council, you can reach the chair, Eli Vandenberg, at that same email, churchcouncil@chestnuthillunited.org. And finally, if you have prayer requests, please feel free to email those to our pastors at prayers@chestnuthillunited.org. We would love to be praying for you. Thank you, friends.
I'm going to see how this microphone works, and I have the handheld as a backup. Our first reading, we typically select a non-biblical passage, and today I'm bringing you a poem called Talking to Grief by Denise Levertov. Ah, grief, I should not treat you like a homeless dog who comes to the back door for a crust, for a meatless bone. I should trust you. I should coax you into the house and give you your own corner, a worn mat to lie on, your own water dish. You think I don't know you've been living under my porch. You long for your real place to be readied before winter comes. You need your name, your collar and tag. You need the right to warn off intruders, to consider my house your own, and me your person, and yourself my own dog. Our second reading comes from Psalm chapter 30. I will exalt you, O God, because you have lifted me up and have not let my enemies triumph over me. O Lord my God, I cried out to you, and you restored me to health. You brought me up, O God, from the dead. You restored my life as I was going down to the grave. Sing to God, you servants of his. Give thanks for the remembrance of God's holiness. For God's wrath endures but the twinkling of an eye, her favor for a lifetime. Weeping may spend the night, but joy comes in the morning. While I felt secure, I said, I shall never be disturbed. You, God, with your favor, made me as strong as the mountains. Then you hid your face, and I was filled with fear. I cried to you, O God. I pleaded with God, saying, what profits is there in my blood if I go down to the pit? Will the dust praise you or declare your faithfulness? Hear, O God, and have mercy upon me. O God, be my helper. You have turned my wailing into dancing. You have put off my sackcloth and clothed me with joy. Therefore my heart sings and to you without ceasing. O my God, I will give you thanks forever. And from that psalm, I especially want to emphasize and lift up verse number 6. Weeping may spend the night, but joy comes in the morning. What if the key to being fully alive is to immerse ourselves more intentionally in the depths of these two extremes that make us either cry all night long or dance as if we are personally clothed with joy by God? I think God calls us all to be fully alive in the gospel, and especially in the message found in the verse, John 10:10, where Jesus is quoted as saying, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it more abundantly. Psalm 30 is considered one of the Psalms of vigil. A vigil is defined as a period of keeping wake during the time usually spent asleep, especially to keep watch or pray. A number of passages in the Old Testament bear witness to an ancient belief that associates daybreak with the coming of God's help or the revelation and renewal of God's protecting love. The language seems to point to an underlying ritual, an act of vigil at a sanctuary in which the petitioner watched and waited for their God to come with the dawn and deliver them from their troubles. These psalms have a structure to them that appears to reflect different phases of spiritual development. First, the psalm anticipates an intensification of distress before ultimate deliverance. Secondly, the psalmist is portrayed to be in the depths of suffering. And finally, there are hymns of rejoicing after the trials are past and God's light has dawned. This passage, from weeping to joy, is one of the most common themes of religion. The joy of God's presence is sought by people in almost any kind of suffering, be it physical, mental, or spiritual. So what exactly is so difficult about fully leaning into our feelings of sorrow and joy? For one thing, this beautiful verse makes these two extremes seem linear, almost chronological. You're sad, you let some time pass, and then you get to experience joy again. Almost like paying a penance. But we all know that's not exactly how it usually works. What about all the feelings that come up in between those two extremes? We vacillate along a spectrum of complex emotions all day long. Sometimes when something great is happening, we get struck down by despair. Sometimes it's the result of a fleeting thought, the anticipation something bad will surely happen soon. Sometimes you're on a boardwalk in Rehoboth Beach with beloved friends, enjoying a gloriously sunny day like I was 10 days ago, and you look at your phone and learn that the Supreme Court has overturned Roe v. Wade, declaring the constitutional right to abortion no longer, even after being upheld for nearly a half century. And you have to break the news to one of your best friends who is enjoying an ice cream cone almost without a care in the world. And suddenly your vacation becomes a wake. And at other times, when we are in deep despair, we experience a profound pang of gratitude or a fit of laughter that delights us, and we wonder, is it okay to feel happy at a time like this? During our time together today, I want to talk about the reasons we limit our sorrow and how we might break that pattern, and how we go about inviting our sadness in like a dog without a home from our first reading. And on the other extreme, let's think about the reasons that we put limits on our joy and how we might experience it more abundantly. We go through all kinds of efforts to pretend we're okay when we're not. In our society, we are rewarded for productivity and expected to adhere to all kinds of norms, including getting over grief in short order without too much messiness. We're supposed to be self-sufficient, resilient, and strong. These standards are in opposition to Jesus' commandments about how we must take care of each other. In practical terms, loving your neighbor as yourself means pouring into others in their difficult times and sharing some of what has been poured into you during your own trials and tribulations. There's a lot of data and debate about repressed emotions. Repression usually refers to the tendency to avoid uncomfortable feelings. You unconsciously push painful feelings, thoughts, or memories out of your consciousness. This lets you forget them. You may do this for fear of damaging your positive self-image. These unprocessed emotions can still affect your actions. Repressed emotions can be a way to protect your mind from painful situations. This can happen in the case of abuse. One might repress memories from their childhood and to the extent that they become fully or partly unaware of them. However, the abuse still affects them and may cause problems in adulthood. Some of us have a tendency to unconsciously avoid negative feelings that threaten our self-image, or you might see yourself as always in control of how you feel and try to avoid conversations where people talk about their troubles. These are repressive tendencies. You might unconsciously do this so you don't have to feel sadness or anxiety. Those feelings can make you feel like you're losing control. Repressed emotions are not exactly the same as suppressed emotions. Suppression happens when you actively push uncomfortable thoughts, feelings, or memories out of your consciousness. This is because you don't know what to do with them. So an example would be if you're at work and you're dealing with a difficult coworker, you might suppress some of that and work through that at home. Some people call suppression shutting down. Sometimes this leads to numbing yourself with scrolling on your phone, watching TV, or doing any other activity so that you don't have to feel your emotions. I engaged in some of these tactics this week and used reality TV and ice cream to try to numb my feelings. But in the end, those emotions lingered and I had to acknowledge and work through them in healthier ways. Tarana Burke, the founder of the Me Too movement and author of Unbound, described the trying times she recently experienced. On Thanksgiving Day, there was a phone call. Her mother answered it, and she watched her smile slowly begin to fade. They learned that Tarana's 92-year-old grandmother had COVID. They prayed and tried to reassure themselves that everything would be okay. But unfortunately, Grandma died 2 weeks later, and that was only the beginning of what she calls her personal tsunami that lasted 6 months. How did she make it through? At the funeral, 11 family members also got COVID, including herself, her 71-year-old mother, her daughter, and husband. Stressed out and grieving, she triggered a rare neurological condition. The doctor recommended that she try to avoid stress. Tall order for a Black woman responsible for starting a movement that galvanized people all around the world to stand up against sexual abuse. As Tarana puts it, grief is a trickster that has its way with you. You can't make plans to navigate it. We lost 1 million people to COVID in this country. The mourners left behind are carrying around so much grief. And then there are world events, news story after news story of suffering and violence. Tarana thought about all that was going on, and she describes experiencing raw human emotion as she wept, and she was into it. She wept for all the aunties, neighbors, and grandmas lost, and somehow she felt good about the heartbreak because she didn't want to feel numb. We are not built to know and hold this much. Being an overachiever is part of our trauma response. Many of us weep in private. We hide our sorrow. We pretend all is well. There is something to be said about intentionally making space for our sadness, refusing to be numb, letting others see the side of us that refuses to project strength. We hide our pain in order to lie to ourselves about how real it is, in order not to interrupt someone else's joy. We think of our sorrow as a contagion, and like COVID, no one wants to be responsible for transmitting sadness. When we are vulnerable, we risk rejection in the form of people not responding the way we need them to. But we also give others radical permission to share their own hard stuff. There is almost always a discrepancy between how people appear to us and what they're actually experiencing. This gap between our public gloss and private mess was the topic of a New York Times opinion article by Frank Bruni. In it, Frank talks about how losing his eyesight helped him see the difficulties others were going through more clearly. In the article, he imagined a world where our hardships are spelled out for everyone to see. Imagine that each of us donned a sandwich board that itemized our challenges. Single parent, child with special needs, nowhere near enough help. Or debilitating headaches, near constant shrieking in ears, frequent thoughts of suicide. Frank Bruni's own sandwich board would say, eyesight compromised, could go blind. The truth is that we all have more pain than the world typically knows, and it helps to talk about it sometimes. So I'm inviting people in this community to share some of your challenges and joys for another panel discussion. Some of you may have been here last week when we heard from panelists from our LGBTQ+ community, and we're gonna host another one on August 21st. If you want to share with us some of the real stuff that you sometimes bury, please consider joining us for a truth-telling discussion on that day. When weeping spends the night, we can use the Bible to console ourselves. The passage in 2 Corinthians 4 says, "We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed." Sometimes joy really does arrive in the morning, and you decide that as much as your sorrow deserves to be honored, it's time to declare that you no longer want to be part of what Zora Neale Hurston calls the sobbing school in a celebratory essay called How It Feels to Be Colored Me. And now the question becomes, how can I experience unrestrained joy? How can I ask this beautiful question? How good can it get? The psalm says, "When you changed my despair into a dance, You stripped me of my death shroud and clothed me with joy. That's why my heart sings to you. That's why I can't keep silent. You are my God, and I thank you forever. God makes room for the full depth of our feelings, and we should offer that gift right back to each other. God is the one who gave us this deep capacity to feel complex emotions. God can handle it all: our overwhelm, shame, rage, self-pity, resentment, worry, and anguish. But also God is here when we want to shout about how great life can be, how sometimes it feels like we hit the lotto with the people who love us and who we get to love. How can we experience deep belonging, awe, tranquility, relief, and contentment, and share it with each other? Weeping may spend the night, but joy comes in the morning. Sometimes we feel forsaken, and we long for the love of God like a parched land thirsty for water. And we come to the sanctuary seeking shelter with God and each other and protection under the shadow of her wings. And when the joy of God's presence fills our hearts, we will sing aloud in hymns of praise. May you make room to feel it all as you are held by the love of God and the love of others who can handle the good, the bad, and the ugly of our messy, beautiful lives. This is God's good news. Amen. At this time, we will share the joys and challenges of our lives in prayer together. I'll remind people on Zoom the way to do that is to either write your prayer requests in the chat and Kara will lift it up on your behalf, or you can also raise your physical or digital hand and you'll be unmuted so that we can hear from you directly.
Priscilla,
Yes.
I also just want to let folks on Zoom know we're having a little bit of difficulty reading some of the lyrics today. So friends, I will be pasting your bulletin and I think it will appear on the screen as well. While we take this offertory time, we're going to sing "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." And it's number 17 in your special hymnal, and I'm pasting the lyrics into the chat box for our friends on Zoom. We'll sing through the whole song and then we'll sing the chorus a second time. "'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be my delight, till be turning will come round right. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight." Thank you, friends. And let us move now to our closing hymn, "I'm on My Way."
I'm on My Way is in number 10. And just to point out one thing, we combined the sister and brother into sibling, so there's actually 4 verses. You can remain standing as Care brings us the benediction.
Thank you, Priscilla and friends. Friends, as you go forth from this place, may you bring all of who you are, the joys, the deep griefs, the things that defy description. May you know that you are held in all of who you are, in community and in the love of the one who created you. May you go deeply companioned by the God who created you, who walks with you and sustains you. Go in peace. Amen.